All right, I'm going to record it here. All right, so this is weird, man. This is weird. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to what is probably the first of many virtual tasting episodes. We are in self-isolation mode all over the country. So I am Chip Walton. I am joined by the one and only
Paul Illa.
Paul Illa the Chilla. Illa, where are you at?
I'm actually in my quarantine brewery in my basement.
The bunker.
The bunker, yeah.
And we're going to drink one of Paul's beers. He dropped it off with me about a week ago. So it's done its time in the garage and quarantining and being safe and being rubbed down. So let's crack this open as I pour it. Boom! I should have thought of that. Like if this poured all over the keyboard, I'd be in trouble. Tell people what we are drinking.
It is based on a pre-prohibition lager, but it was really a daughter of an idea from Brow Brothers. When I stopped there, they had a Jasmine Rice Lager.
Jasmine Rice Lager.
Yeah, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. You know, it's got this like cool aromatics about it. Of course, typical crisp, clean. But it was just, for whatever reason, it was like, I could do this, you know? So, but it initially was supposed to be for the Alaskan Brewing Company, their yearly brew off or whatever, and I just didn't have enough time. It didn't finish in time. Plus, you had to figure in the time of travel, like how long it was going to take to get the beer there. So, I just kind of left it in the keg, let it really, crisp up, clear up. It's fermented with a Norwegian Kvike strain called Oslo from Bootleg Biology, and I think it's kind of a really unique strain. It's got some different, I wouldn't say it has your typical like straight up lager like notes to it, but I would say it's maybe a little bit more towards the lager side than like California Common Yeast.
It is clear and golden. So work backwards, though, because I think we skipped right past it. Here, cheers, dude. Click, click, click. There's two unique things here. This is a rice lager, so you mash with rice, and then it's got spruce tips that aren't like foraged by hand. You order those. So talk us through those ingredients and the process of how you use, especially the rice.
The rice was kind of simple. I mean, I started to look for flaked rice. Like, who's going to have jasmine flaked quick rice, where all the work has been done. And it's funny that I think it's minute rice.
Oh, yeah.
So it's already basically, there's no cereal mashing involved. I mean, it's quick rice. It's already been gelatinized. So right into the mash it went. And as far as the spruce tips, those were basically, now, I mean, for my taste, the spruce might be just a little bit on the stronger side, but I don't know if that's also working with the jasmine at the same time. I whirlpooled, I want to say it was like 4 ounces of spruce tips. So it maybe I could cut that in half and it would be just a little bit less. Maybe they kind of.
No boil, just all post.
Yep, threw them right at the end.
And then you used ultra hops, which I wasn't really aware of until you kind of sent the descriptors. Talk me through how you came across the idea for using ultra. Really?
It was low. Because originally the idea was I was going to make a sour and call it Fubar Sour, and the ultra was my U.
Oh.
So then, you kind of look at the lineage of that hop in particular, and it's very much I think it was Hallertauer Mittelfrüh. I think was kind of the lineage of that, and a little bit of Saz. It's just the right hop for, doing just doing a standard American lager, or even I guess you could use it if you're, it's not something that you're probably going to find at Northern Brewer or, Right Brew or any of those places. It was actually just.
You got them from a place called Tenacious Badger.
Tenacious Badger, yeah, yeah. I try to keep it local if I can, But
so
that I think
Wisconsin grown, and they're really low alpha and beta.
Yep.
At or below 3 on both of those.
Yep.
What do you think the hop did? We should always probably start with the actual tasting notes and then work backwards so that people don't tune out. But since we forgot to do that, real quick, just kind of give me your elevator pitch tasting notes on the final product.
I like that. It does have I use Caribbean, so there's a little bit of roundness to it, so it's not super dry. I mean, I did mash, I think, at 150, 151, just to kind of leave a little more body there. I mean, American lagers tend to be pretty dried out and pretty bland, So, I mean, at least this way I get a little bit of something going on there. And especially with having all that rice, I didn't want it just to be straight up, just nothing left. It should kind of coat the tongue a little bit, and with all that pininess from the actual spruce tips, it kind of oils, it kind of hangs around there just a little bit. But I think maybe for my taste, it might have been just a touch more pine than I would have wanted.
And I like it. It's we'll post the recipe. I mean, the jasmine rice is almost 22% of the grist. It's a pale malt, Viking extra pale malt, jasmine, you said, Caribbean, acid malt, just a little titchy titch. And then Belma hops for bittering.
Just for bittering, yeah.
And then this ultra magnetic MC.
And it doesn't really.
The Oslo. So, and the Oslo is a Kveik yeast. I've seen people consider it a lager process friendly Kveik, right?
Yep. And I mean, you can see the clarity. So it definitely, I would say that most Kveik yeasts are going to flock very slowly. This one, it will drop out. You give it a good week or two in the cold, it'll drop out pretty solid. I mean, where at least in my experience with Voss or Hornindal, they hang around a little bit longer and don't clear out quite as fast. But then they don't get as crisp either. I mean, this, I think, I don't remember what the final gravity was, but I mean, it goes down. It can go down as far as 86% attenuation. So I mean, you can really dry it out if you mash low but it can work. I think it's a pretty nice option for most people who don't have temperature control, right? I mean, you can get a lager-like characteristic like with California Common, but you don't have to keep it at 51 degrees and lager at 33 for however long.
Do you think that rice gives it almost like a sweetness? Kind of like when you have corn mixed in, it's got this different layer, a different kind of sweet and a different kind of graininess.
Yeah. And I wonder if that doesn't also come from that Viking malt a little bit too. It's almost like that Viking malt, they kind of play it as being Pilsner color-esque, but more like a two-row as far as the sweetness goes, the graininess.
This is really good. I've enjoyed it the couple of times I've had it. Sprucey, little citrusy. I feel like that rice kind of does give this really clean, crisp lager, kind of what we're used to in American lagers because they're using rice syrup and rice solids and
I think as it warms up a little bit, the malt flavor definitely comes through a little bit more. I think when it's a little bit colder, maybe I'm just picking up more of that pine when it's a little bit colder. But as it kind of warms up, like right now, I can definitely taste more of that malt, maybe that rice character, that graininess character that's in there than I would have when I first poured it.
For anybody, so just real quick, so the jasmine rice in this case is the minute rice, 3 pounds of it.
Yep.
And talk about mashing with that. Was there anything that you did because of that? Was there anything that made it difficult, or does that not get as like gooey?
It doesn't seem to get as gluey as like if you were doing oats or rye, especially not rye. I mean, that stuff you use flaked rye and it's just like
stuck. Yeah.
Oh yeah, your runoff is slow. I was actually, if I'm remembering correctly, this was a really good runoff, and I think I actually beat my efficiency with it. So I didn't have to reset the mash. I mean, it rolled through pretty quick. Now, typically, I would throw a couple of handfuls of rice hulls in just to be sure, especially if the grain father, that mesh that's on the bottom there, your initial mash can be a little slow at first. Sometimes you have to stir it up again to kind of make sure everything's nice and thoroughly mixed in. But I was shocked at how easily this run through and how clear the wort was when I ran it off. I mean, it's always nice when you take your gravity reading and you can see right through your wort and you're like, all right, this one's going to clear out nice. The proteins have broke out well. I mean, everything looks nice.
Give me the beer in 3 words. Taste-wise, not process.
I'm going to say it's clean, piney, and a little sweet. Yeah, just a touch of sweetness.
Mm-hmm. It's almost, I would call it, it's almost got like this honey sweetness, this non-resinous pine.
Yeah.
Which those spruce tips often, if they're early or young season, they are more citrusy. Crusher. I don't know. It just has that pre-pro thing, right? Where it's a little. It's not like Miller Lite or Old Style where you're like, man, like bone dry.
Yep.
So you can drink 12 of them. You know what I mean? Right. Like this has still got some body and heft to it where I probably wouldn't knock out like 3 pints of this like I would in Old Style because it's got body, it's got some of that sweetness, but it's kind of cream ale-ish, but it doesn't even seem quite that rich. It's a little cleaner cut than that.
And I think, if you're maybe using more traditional lager yeast, you would have maybe a little bit less ester profile. It might be even just a little bit more cleaner than it is now, but not much. I mean, it would be interesting to brew this beer without the spruce to see what happens with, the yeast profile, right? And see what that actually played into this beer, working with the jasmine, working with, the pale malt, maybe even just using a really good German Pilsner malt to see what that does to it, to maybe give it more of that true German, like grainy Pilsner malt flavor. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can. The nice part is it's a pretty open concept. So the base itself, just basically a rice lager, and you can go any which way with it. You could probably even throw in some like old school American citrusy hops. I like cluster. So if you want a little bit of that like old school bite, might work good. Some Cascade would probably work great. Willamette if you wanted something a little bit more aromatic. I mean, it's an open concept. That's the beauty of homebrewing, right?
It's an open concept relationship.
Yeah. Well, usually you have to get a hall pass for that.
Yeah. Okay. All right, man. Well, it's National Beer Day, so I appreciate you making time to join me virtually. Everybody out in the interwebs, we appreciate you taking time to join us virtually. Until the next time we join each other virtually. Chop for chop, Paul.
Brew for brew.
Shout out to Zoom. Like I said, when my light's on, my head glows. I got the head glow syndrome over here.
Yeah, so do I, but that's why I'm wearing the hat. Plus, shout out to BSG.
I should probably put a hat on instead of like just turning all the lights out and look like a creeper. All right, dude, we're rolling.